Alright everyone, the stark contrast between lay liberals like the NPR cup wielders, sweater wearers, the people nostalgic for the Obama era, and the far, far left is becoming evident in the wake of the recent Supreme Court decisions. At the end of their term, deciding multiple major cases, 303 Creative, Affirmative Action, etc. Link in the description. Archived, of course. This is a CNN article, so this is coming from a network that deliberately takes marching orders on some elements of news from the Biden admin itself. They hold little roundtable meetings digitally, and the Biden admin tells them how to spin economic, especially, news stories to make the administration more palatable to a gullible public. Liberals, though, according to this article, and others that are now up, they've acknowledged something that far leftists won't. They've acknowledged that they lost on affirmative action, and not lost as in, well, the Supreme Court went against us, but really we're right. But more, hey, we've lost the plot. As a general political movement, we were in the wrong. Affirmative action was neither popular, nor constitutional, nor particularly pragmatic. And it's probably time to pivot around to some issue that we can actually woo people on. You see, the problem is that affirmative action was becoming less popular over time. If you institute a policy, even if it's unconstitutional, as a libertarian I can't support it if it's unconstitutional or I understand it to be or believe it to be, but in general, in the public at large, there's less of a razor-sharp focus on that than on pragmatism. I've pointed this out when you're doing political campaigning and stuff, sometimes a little pragmatism goes a long way. Therefore, if you institute a policy, and at the very least, most people support it, even if it's not technically legal. It's in a gray area. The SCOTUS could rule one way or the other if there's a case. At the very least, you have the aid of knowing that if it gets struck down, you get brownie points. Well, we tried to give this great thing to the American people, and then an activist at court came along and took it out from under you. But that's not the case with affirmative action. It's also not the case with free association a la 303. If you misjudge that case as being, well, the fallout from this is that you're allowed to discriminate against gay people now, well, you probably don't support the decision. On that token, the liberals, of course, would side with the left. If you properly judge the actual ramifications of the case and say this merely means that freelancers and small businesses don't have to do things that are explicitly against their religious beliefs, and I think that it should go further, much further than even that decision, and in the future probably there will be future litigation that's not religious in nature. Violating other rights is just as bad. If you frame it in that context, most people support the decision. Affirmative action requires no framing. Affirmative action had two groups supporting it towards the end there. It was more popular 40 years ago than it ever was in the last couple of years. It was losing popularity as people realized it was unhelpful. Two groups of people still supported it. People directly benefiting from it, which is a minority of the population by design, and people benefiting indirectly by promoting it to the people that are benefiting from it. Effectively, it's nothing more than vote buying. It was never going to address systemic racism. It hasn't moved the metrics of inequality in any meaningful sense. So what's the point? You're enacting racial discrimination in taxpayer-funded educational edifices, and you're not even getting any pragmatic benefit from it according to your own designs of why you've instituted it. And so liberals have understood this finally. Belatedly, the legacy media and others have come out and admitted to what most of us knew for a number of years, which is that affirmative action was DOA effectively upon a case being taken up, doesn't make sense, and is unpopular, and growing more unpopular and simply stokes division. But the leftists have not recognized this. I've seen numerous NPR cup liberals, so standard Dem partisan, suburbanite liberal. Again, NPR cup and turning your thermostat down a degree in order to prevent climate change. NIMBYist liberals, really. Ironically, I have more respect for some leftists than many of them. They've recognized, at least for political pragmatic purposes, we probably should just wander off from this issue and leave it alone. We lost. We lost on the... It's like looking at the right wing and gay marriage, for example. A handful of morons continue harping on it as though the devil is still going to crawl up out of the ground, or that Drag Queen Story Hour has something to do with a gay couple in 1995 carrying a sign saying, hey, please let us get a state proprietarian contract so that we can be medical proxies. The two are wide apart. They're not even part of the same culture war. They're simply an attempt by the far left and by perverts to dovetail the two together to take a successful culture war and re-inject it into one that they're losing on, namely their efforts to harm small children. They are failing, by the way. More gay people have begun to speak out against it. In the wake of Budweiser and boycotts and all of these other things going on, it's become a little bit too on the nose, I think, for the average homosexual couple in the United States. It's like watching, though, certain right-wing politicians who in some cases don't even have a reason to do this because they're guaranteed re-election in a far-red district, and they think that the solution is, well, hey, we need to ban the gay people or something like that. But you lost the issue. Gay marriage became the law of the land. It's been normalized. The majority of the public and a growing majority support the ability of a mere homosexual couple to get a state marriage contract. Despite warnings to the contrary, I haven't seen many cases of gay couples suing a church because it didn't want to marry them. It'd be a very, very difficult litmus test that you would have to go through for that. You lost a culture war, or an aspect of it. And so wise individuals said, oh, okay, well, I mean, we can't win this one. The public's not with us, the Constitution's not with us, the court's not with us, time's not with us. Let's focus on something where we can actually win. Looking at this is about the same. The left lost on affirmative action, and the far left is still trying in vain to wage that fight. You know, you can see it. Take a casual stroll down the lunatic asylum side of Twitter sometime with all of the Harry Sissons and Ed Krasensteins, and you'll see them still bitching about it days later, as though it was not a dead issue. But America went against affirmative action. No pragmatism, not constitutional. You lost the majority will of the public behind it, and so it got shot down. And I strongly suspect a handful of leftist politicians will still be talking about the need to reintroduce affirmative action 10, 15 years from now. If the right wing is any indicator, and they tend to overstretch less often, they only do that once they've won the culture war. That's when they begin overstretching. Most of them, they don't lose the plot. The left will do the same thing. Liberals will give it up. Because it was a grift anyway. Most of those people are lily white. They live in gated communities, happy suburbs, and have their NPR mugs. They don't give a shit what happens to some black person applying to college anyway. They only used it to get votes or to be woke. For clout, for keeping up appearances. What the hell does some white suburban upper middle class liberal with their sub-McMansion, why do they care about what happens in the inner cities? Just look at their proposed gun policies if you want an example of their brilliance and intelligence and their deep-seated love for the people of color community. Well, there is none. Leftists, though, will continue to shriek about this for a protracted or prolapsed period of time. Probably the latter, given some of their dating strategies. They seem to reproduce via anal sex, actually, in some cases. The left, you've lost. That's just the long and short of it. Get over it. But some people find it difficult to get over anything. Thus, the difference between, and in parlance, we do have to understand, there is a difference between a standard lay like a Dem partisan liberal, again, NPR cup and shit, and somebody who's in Antifa. There is actually a difference. The two terms are not interchangeable. It's just sometimes I like to be hyperbolic, but I do understand the linguistics. That's about all. Peace out.